Have you ever ridden alongside a longhorn steer during a cattle drive? No? Or come upon a trail crew while they were waiting for the coffee to get hot over the fire? Felt the spray of water on your face from a watering hole, and as you bend down to take a drink, you realize you're not alone. A longhorn is also taking a drink nearby. Not concerned, he just swishes his tail at a fly and goes back to drinking. Or what about being within just a few feet of a bison that is grazing in the tall grass along the well-traveled Shawnee Trail with a Native American closing in behind him? Well, the next time you're waiting at a light on Preston Road in Frisco, Texas, or visiting some of the shops located off Gaylord Parkway and Preston Road, you can. In fact, on any day or even night for that matter, you can actually see, touch, and experience an entire cattle drive depicted by the world's largest bronze sculpture displaying while traveling north and south along Preston Road in Frisco, Texas. Preston Road, also known as the Preston Trail and the Shawnee Trail, is the oldest north-south road in north-central Texas and was well-traveled by Native American and bison in the early 1800s and ran from St. Louis to San Antonio, Texas. If you were standing in the intersection of State Highway 121 and Preston Road some 40 years ago, you would only see a small fruit and vegetable stand on the southwest corner called Lolaville, an auto dealership on the northwest corner, and the small white frame Lebanon Baptist Church further north up Preston Road. The truth is, that was not Frisco, at least not yet. The fruit and vegetable stand, lovingly called Lolaville, is actually Lolaville, Texas, and the Lebanon Baptist Church actually belonged to the village of Lebanon, pronounced Lebanon, which also dates back to the 1800s. Lebanon was a thriving community with several businesses, churches, schools, and a post office, and had a reputation among the cattle drivers as being a wild and woolly place. Lebanon reached its peak in the 1890s with a population of 450. However, change began to occur with the building of the railroad, and by 1900 the population of Lebanon was only 272. Many moved away. However, some of the families physically moved their homes on logs powered by steam engines 3 miles to the north to be close to the railroad and to be on the mail line. In 1902, the San Francisco-St. Louis Railroad Company, which was also known as the Frisco, began serving the community of Emerson, named after Francis Emerson, a McKinney banker. Since it was too similar to another Texas town called Emberson, the name was changed to Frisco City and then later shortened to Frisco to represent the importance of what the railway meant to the beginning of their town. Where there are steam locomotives, you must have water. So the Frisco Lake was formed to provide water for the steam engines and also become a sort of public swimming pool. The water was pumped into overhead tanks next to the depot. There's a story that for a while, trains were loading up with water from the tanks, and as they headed back down to the tracks, the engine would seize up. It was later discovered that some of the kids in town were swimming in those tanks, causing the water to be soapy. Once the railroad found out what was going on, they poured several hundred gallons of crude oil into the tanks. The oil floated on top, and when the kids dove in, they came out covered in oil. That was the end to the swimming in the tanks, especially when the kids also realized that the railroad crew had also hidden their clothes that they left behind at a nearby cotton gin. Cotton gins were located near the railroad downtown. Bales of cotton could be easily loaded onto the boxcars for delivery. During those days, cotton was king, and Frisco was considered a hub for cotton, also known as white gold. There was also plenty of activity in town, so much that the main street downtown Frisco would be packed, and the sidewalks would be so full of people that some had to walk on the road, moving aside for the occasional Model T to go by. Main Street used to be just a dirt road, not even graveled, and would get really muddy after it rained. If you were hungry, you could eat at Shorty Stark's Cafe. Out-of-town guests would stay at the commercial hotel, later called the Johnson. There was a theater which was called the Picture Show, a barber shop, and another cafe known as Sapp's Cafe. In August of 1922, Samuel C. Kurtzinger bought the W.G. Wolf drugstore just 1 month before a fire destroyed most of downtown Frisco on September 2nd, 1922. Amazingly, Kurtzinger's drugstore, along with a few other businesses, survived the fire, as well as the brick arch of the Picture Show. Since most of the buildings were constructed mainly of wood, and the town only had a single Model T fire truck, help had to come from surrounding Salina. Soon after the fire, City Council held a meeting and began drafting an ordinance stating that buildings had to be made from other materials besides just wood. 1963 saw another tragedy when the tornado ripped through Frisco, causing $200,000 in damage. Fortunately, there were no fatalities and no injuries reported. In 1970, the Frisco Chamber of Commerce was established, and the population had reached 1,845. By 1990, the population had grown to 6,138. By 2000, a $298 million referendum was approved that included the building of 7 elementary, 2 middle, and 2 high schools. There are a lot of facts about Frisco, the beginning years, the years leading up to present day. But what really makes up the town and its history are the people and their stories. These are just a few. There are stories of gold from a bank robbery said to be buried between 2 twin wells just off Preston Road. There's a story of a drunk that was left in the calaboose, also known as jail or prison, on a Friday night by the former mayor and forgotten about until the following Monday. After the mayor heard the sounds coming from the 6-foot high by 15-foot long by 12-foot wide concrete building located just off First Street and to the south of Main Street, the man was released, very sober and very hungry. There were the doctors in town that went above and beyond the call of duty. There was Dr. Irwin G. Pink, also known as Painless Pink. It's said that he would stitch up a Friday night football player on the hood of a car and send him right back out to play. If you were standing at the intersection of Highway 121 and Preston Road now, you would see that Lolaville is long gone, but the Stonebriar Mall and other retail shops were a welcome sight. The Lebanon Baptist Church no longer sits on Preston Road. Although it was not moved on logs, it now resides at the Frisco Heritage Museum. And if you've ever dined at a table at Randy's Steakhouse on Main Street in Frisco, then you've actually dined at a table of the T.C. Campbell home, which was one of the homes moved on logs by steam engines years ago. The train depot is gone, but you can see much of its history through the photographs and other memorabilia on display at the Depot Cafe. Out back of the cafe, the calaboose still stands, although the walls are crumbling and the door is missing. The cattle drives faded out years ago, but you can still ride alongside one anytime, day or night. Their journey has been a long one and still goes on even now as they walk the same route all day, every day, and into the night, but they won't mind a visit. Though time stands still for these Longhorns and their trail crew, Frisco does not, and it continues to grow, advance, and move on. But the humble beginnings will never be forgotten.